Park rangers in some forests share a rule they never explain to tourists.
If you ever find a staircase standing alone in the middle of the woods, do not climb it.
Because sometimes
something waits at the bottom. 3 years ago, I started working as a park ranger in a remote national forest.
the place was huge miles of thick trees,
rocky hills, and trails that almost no one used anymore.
On my first night shift, my senior ranger gave me a strange warning.
He said,
While patrolling, you might see things that don't belong here.
if you ever see stairs in the forest, just walk away. I laughed because it sounded ridiculous. Why would stairs be in the middle of the forest? But he didn't laugh.
He just looked at me and said,
Just promise me you won't climb them. A week later, I was doing a patrol alone. It was almost sunset, and the forest was getting dark. I was walking off trail when I noticed something strange between the trees.
At first, I thought it was a rock formation, but as I got closer, I realized it was a staircase.
A perfectly normal staircase,
Old wood, about 12 steps.
standing completely alone in the middle of the forest.
No house, no ruins,
Nothing.
just stairs.
I remembered the warning.
But curiosity got the better of me.
I slowly walked closer. The strange thing was,
The forest had become completely silent. No birds, no wind.
nothing.
I put my foot on the first step, then the second.
Then the third.
By the time I reached the top, something felt wrong. I suddenly had the feeling that I was being watched.
I turned around to look at the forest below, and that's when I heard it.
Footsteps. Slow, heavy footsteps.
Right behind the staircase.
But when I looked down,
There was nothing there. Then I heard breathing. Something was standing directly under the stairs.
something I couldn't see, and it was slowly starting to climb. I ran down the other side of the staircase and didn't stop running until I reached my truck.
The next morning, I went back with another ranger, but the staircase was gone, like it had never been there.
And my partner told me something that still scares me to this day.
He said, those stairs don't lead up.
They led somewhere else.
I went camping alone in a remote forest. At around 2:30 in the morning, someone outside my tent said hello. The terrifying part was,
It sounded exactly like my voice.
last summer, I decided to go solo camping in a remote forest area.
I had done solo camping before, so I wasn't nervous at all.
The campsite was deep in the woods, far from any roads or houses.
That night, everything felt normal.
I built a small fire, cooked dinner, and eventually went to sleep in my tent.
Around 2:30 in the morning, I suddenly woke up. At first, I didn't know why.
Then I heard something outside my tent.
Footsteps. Slow, crunching footsteps in the leaves.
I thought maybe it was an animal. Then I heard a voice. A quiet voice outside my tent said,
Hello.
I sat up immediately.
It sounded like a person. Maybe another camper got lost. So I replied, Hello? Who's there?
There was silence for about 10 seconds. Then the voice spoke again.
But this time, my blood ran cold.
Because the voice said,
Hello? Who's there?
and it sounded exactly like me.
Same tone, same voice.
Same words. It was copying what I just said. My heart started racing. I grabbed my flashlight, but I didn't open the tent. A few seconds later, the voice came again.
But this time it whispered.
Open the tent.
I stayed completely silent. Then something slowly walked around my tent.
I could hear it circling me.
Step, step, step.
Then it stopped right next to the zipper.
And in a calm voice that sounded exactly like mine, it said, I learned your voice.
I stayed frozen inside the tent until sunrise. When I finally stepped outside, there were footprints all around my tent,
But they didn't look human.
the steps were too long.
Like whatever was walking there had very long legs.
We found a missing hiker's backpack deep in the forest.
Inside it was a camera with one last video. And after watching that video, we realized the thing chasing him was still in the woods. 2 friends and I decided to go hiking in a national
Forest that had several old trails. One of the trails was marked as closed.
Of course, that made us curious.
So we decided to explore it anyway.
After about an hour of walking, we found something lying next to the trail.
A backpack. It looked old and dirty like it had been there for weeks. Inside the backpack, we found food, water, and a camera. When we turned the camera on, there was only one video. It was recorded at night. The video showed a man walking quickly through the forest with a flashlight. He sounded terrified.
He kept whispering.
Something is following me. Then the camera pointed behind him.
At first, we couldn't see anything. Then something pale moved between the trees.
A tall white shape.
Too tall to be a person.
The man started running. The camera shook violently
Then suddenly, the man turned the camera forward again.
and said something that made our stomachs drop. He said,
It's pretending to be human. Then the video cut to black. We stood there in silence for a moment. That's when we heard something behind us. Footsteps. Slow footsteps. We turned around,
and about 30 feet away,
a man was standing on the trail. He looked dirty and pale. At first, we thought it was the missing hiker.
but something was wrong. His eyes looked completely empty.
And he was smiling in a way that didn't look natural.
Then he spoke. In a slow voice he said, "You shouldn't have watched that." And that's when we realized something terrifying.
That wasn't the hiker.
Whatever chased him in the forest
Was now standing in front of us.